What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you our November updates for Baldur's Gate 3. Literally while I was making this, Larian Studios actually updated the next patch, which is patch 3, which I believe they are calling Inspiration, Freedom, and Pacifism. I'm actually going to go ahead and include that, but it is technically like 2 days past November, but whatever. First things first, not much happened in November. It was a very slow month. They interacted with the community a bit. I believe they gave an interview to a couple places. The main thing that happened in November, though, is they released a pre-patch announcement, which was that going forward, they're going to be tweaking changes to like the story and things like that based on feedback. And because of that, saves going forward might become incompatible. However, they're going to offer a separate branch, so to speak, every time they update the game, in which you'll still be able to play through on your current game until you decide to update to the new branch, which will then make your saves incompatible. So that's a pretty standard thing for kind of early access or beta, really, is that, saves eventually become incompatible with the final product. But it's nice that they're offering at least some workaround for the people who say might have been halfway through their early access playthrough, because 20 hours of content is, of course, a bit of a commitment for some people. That said, we're also going to cover patch 3, even though it was a couple days late, and I'll probably just wind up including it in next month's version of this video as well. But before we jump into that, I just want to say that if you would take the time to subscribe, it does the channel a huge bonus. I'm actually getting quite a few subscribers lately. Moving right along, so if you'd at least consider it, I'd appreciate it. But moving forward, what's actually in patch 3? So the big thing is that they are rewarding avoiding combat and things for pacifism. So that is to say that you could, up to this point, avoid a lot of combats and stuff. However, there wasn't really any reward for doing so. Now they're going to reward that with XP and things like that, or just better loot in general, so that avoiding combat in some situations will at least feel rewarding in some way, or at least offer a different route around a problem as opposed to just fighting everything because you're missing out on XP otherwise. They are also updating the companions to be less annoying, which is something I like. I've nitpicked about it in a few of my videos, is that companions they're very negative. Lae'zel in particular. So they've just adjusted a lot of that stuff. But more importantly, all of them will be just a little less judgy across the board. They also mention that dialogues are going to be less likely to lock you out of content. Now, ultimately, you're still going to be, locked to whatever the dice happen to do here. However, it's possible to not fail an entire situation, so to speak, just because of one roll. They give the owlbear as an example for this specifically. Most of the people who have speak with animals and choose to speak with the owlbear still wind up completely failing the overall encounter. That is to say, not getting the outcome that speak with animals might give you. So they've adjusted that, and they give it as an example, the owlbear situation specifically. And ironically enough, one of the things I'm more excited about is you no longer have to make every member of your party manually jump across things. If you jump, your whole party will jump with you now, which is nice. They are also adding a second short rest in between long rests. So if you're unfamiliar with D&D and you're just watching this to see the updates, you get a long rest and a short rest typically. So a short rest will restore some spells, whereas a long rest will be required to restore certain more important spells. Well, now the short rest spells that you gain back will actually be able to be done twice in between each long rest, which will basically keep you from having to cut out of the game to do a long rest more often, and it'll kind of keep you in the action more. They also mention that they rebalanced cantrips as well as the surfaces created by spells. Currently, a lot of the bigger spells were kind of less impactful than you might enjoy, so they've rebalanced a lot of that to make the non-cantrip spells, like your big beefy spells, actually feel more meaningful and more rewarding to use. So the specifics of that I'll leave to the video here, but suffice to say that was the goal. They've also updated the UI to allow you to more easily pick the level of a spell you'd like to cast. So up to this point, and as many people who play D&D know, you can cast spells at different levels. And up to this point, you basically had to have each level of a spell on your hotbar to manually choose. Now all of those are packed into a flyout menu, so you'll pick the spell, it'll open a flyout menu, then you can pick the level you want to use, and then go from there. So it'll basically keep your hotbar from being an absolute mess. Moreover, they've added the inspiration points to the UI. They were actually in the game up to this, but they're now visible so you can use them. Inspiration points are typically given when you do something that is on point for your character. So they give an example here of like if you save fisherman thralls at a particular point, they'll give you an inspiration point. And then you can use inspiration to do various things. I'll leave that for a separate video. They also mentioned that cross-save is actually finally working. So basically, if you're playing on Steam, Mac, GOG, or Stadia or something like that, all of it should work now across platforms. And that is the last big thing I want to mention. There are a lot more tweaks to this. I just want to be clear about that. So I should have the actual patch notes up in the video here, and there's a lot more changes than what I've mentioned. I just focused on the big things. There are a lot of fixes though, as well as a lot of improvements. The improvements seem to mostly be about cinematics and the things I previously mentioned, whereas the balancing changes are mentioned, as well as a ton of fixes in this patch as well. So there you go, guys. Kind of the November update of Baldur's Gate 3 for you guys, as promised. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and choose to like, comment, subscribe, stick around. But either way, thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.